There is a place on this earth where the sky meets the sea, and sometimes they swallow everything in between. A region roughly 500,000 square miles, bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. No official designation on any nautical chart. No warning on any pilot's briefing sheet. And yet, it has consumed planes, ships, and sailors for over a century. We call it the Bermuda Triangle. But what it truly is, that depends entirely on who you ask. This documentary is not about myth. It is not about monsters or alien intelligence. It is about something far more interesting. The intersection of real events, incomplete data, human psychology, and the deep ocean's capacity to erase all evidence. By the time we are done, you will not walk away with easy answers. You will walk away with better questions. The term Bermuda Triangle was first coined by journalist Vincent Gaddis in 1964 in an article for Argosy magazine. But the mystery he was describing had been accumulating for decades. The region spans parts of the North Atlantic Ocean. It sits astride one of the world's busiest shipping and aviation corridors, which is itself a fact that matters enormously, and one we will return to.
Dr. Emily Ramirez, marine geographer. The Bermuda Triangle is not a formally defined region. The U.S. Navy doesn't recognize it as having any special properties. The U.S. Coast Guard doesn't maintain separate statistics for it. That's actually a crucial piece of context that most people never hear.
And yet, the stories persist. Why? The Atlantic floor beneath the triangle is not uniform. The Bahamas platform's shallow, brilliant blue drops suddenly into the Puerto Rico Trench, the deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean, plunging 27,493 feet below the surface. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. At those depths, water pressure is more than 800 times what we experience at sea level. Wreckage does not simply sink. It is crushed, dispersed, buried. Evidence disappears not by magic, but by physics.
Captain James Whitfield, retired naval officer. People ask why we can't find the wreckage. The honest answer is, the ocean doesn't want to give it back. And at those depths, our search technology still has severe limitations.
Add to this the Gulf Stream, a massive, swift-moving current flowing northward through the triangle at speeds of up to 5.6 miles per hour. Surface debris from a shipwreck can be displaced hundreds of miles within days. A plane's cockpit voice recorder, an oil slick, floating life jackets, all swept away before a search party even launches. The Bermuda Triangle sits in a meteorological crossroads. Tropical storms and hurricanes form frequently in the Atlantic Basin. Sudden, violent waterspouts, rotating columns of water, sometimes reaching 1,500 feet in height, can appear with almost no warning on radar. For early aviation and maritime travel, before satellite weather systems, before real-time radar, before GPS positioning, flying or sailing through this region was an act of courage, confronting genuine, extraordinary uncertainty.
Dr. Sasha Patel, atmospheric scientist. We now know the Triangle region has higher than average frequency of mesoscale convective systems, essentially fast-forming, violent storm cells. In the 1940s and 1950s, a pilot would have had little warning, none sometimes.
To understand why the Bermuda Triangle captured the human imagination so powerfully, we must sit with the actual incidents that built its reputation. Because stripped of mythology, they remain genuinely, profoundly strange. December 5th, 1945. Naval Air Station, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 5 Avenger torpedo bombers take off for a routine training mission. Navigation problem number 1. 14 men aboard. Blue skies. Calm conditions. Expected return, 2 hours. They never came back. Radio transcripts, which you can read today in declassified Navy archives, reveal something disturbing. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, begins reporting compass malfunction. The planes circle. Confusion spreads among the pilots. At one point, Taylor says, the rescue aircraft sent to find them, a PBM Mariner flying boat, also disappeared. 13 more men gone. No wreckage, no bodies, no black box. The technology didn't exist yet. What we have is those radio transcripts and a mystery that consumed a generation.
Dr. Ramirez. The official Navy investigation concluded the most likely cause was navigational error, disorientation, fuel exhaustion, then crash into the sea at night. The Gulf Stream current would have dispersed debris within 24 hours. The loss was real. The supernatural element was added later by others.
And yet, 14 men, 5 aircraft, and the strange words, even the ocean looks strange. That phrase never really leaves you. The largest single loss of life in U.S. naval history not involving combat. The USS Cyclops, a Navy fuel carrier, 542 feet long, 309 men aboard left Barbados in March 1918 and simply ceased to exist. No distress signal, no wreckage ever found, no bodies, no confirmed explanation to this day.
Captain Whitfield. The Cyclops is the one that genuinely troubles maritime historians. The ship was large enough and the technology of the time advanced enough that a total disappearance without any trace is extremely unusual. There are theories: structural failure, a microburst storm, even German submarine activity, but none have been conclusively established.
President Woodrow Wilson himself said, "A century later, we are still asking." Two British passenger aircraft, different flights, different years, the same inexplicable fate. Star Tiger, January 1948. En route from the Azores to Bermuda. 25 passengers and crew. The last radio contact was routine. Then, nothing. No distress call. No debris. No oil slick. No trace. Star Ariel, January 1949. En route from Bermuda to Jamaica. 20 aboard. Same story. A calm radio check-in, followed by absolute silence.
Dr. Patel. The British Ministry of Civil Aviation investigation was unusually candid. They concluded, and I'm quoting directly, No more baffling problem has ever been presented for investigation. That's not myth-making, that's the official finding.
What links these cases? Incomplete data. Inadequate search technology for the era. The unforgiving chemistry of deep ocean disposal of evidence. And crucially, the human need to find a pattern when confronted with repeated tragedy. But before we surrender entirely to rational explanation, we owe these cases something, a moment of genuine intellectual humility. Because sometimes, the data truly is incomplete. So far, we have looked at the stories. Now we look at the data. And data, as it turns out, is where the Bermuda Triangle narrative gets genuinely complicated in ways that satisfy the mind, but perhaps disappoint the imagination. Lloyd's of London, the world's foremost marine insurance market, with centuries of actuarial data on maritime disasters, does not charge higher premiums for ships sailing through the Bermuda Triangle. Think about what that means. If the Triangle were genuinely more dangerous than surrounding waters, Lloyd's, whose entire business model depends on accurate risk assessment, would know. They don't charge more because the data doesn't support the risk.
Dr. Ramirez, when you look at incidents per vessel mile traveled, the Bermuda Triangle is not an outlier. The region has one of the world's heaviest concentrations of maritime and aviation traffic. More traffic means more incidents, statistically inevitably. The question was never, why do ships disappear here, but rather, do ships disappear here at a higher rate than elsewhere? And the answer appears to be no.
In 1975, a librarian named Lawrence David Couchet did something that seems obvious in retrospect. He went back to the original sources. He examined newspaper archives, Coast Guard reports, weather records, and Lloyd's records for every incident cited as a triangle mystery. What he found was damning, not for the triangle, but for the books that had made it famous. Incidents that supposedly occurred in calm weather records showed violent storms. Ships described as vanishing without trace. Couchet found the wreckage reported elsewhere. Some incidents didn't even occur in the triangle geographically. One ship, cited as a triangle victim, had actually sunk in the Pacific Ocean.
Dr. Patel, Couchet's conclusion was blunt. The Bermuda Triangle mystery was the result of sloppy research, exaggeration, and, in some cases, deliberate omission of facts that contradicted the narrative. That's a serious charge, and the evidence supported it.
But here's the intellectual tension we must sit with. Couchet's debunking doesn't explain every case. The USS Cyclops remains genuinely unresolved. Flight 19's final radio transmissions contain details that pure navigational error doesn't fully account for. The question is not, is the triangle supernatural? The question is, what is the honest threshold of explanation we should demand? One of the most scientifically credible and least discussed hypotheses involves methane hydrate deposits on the ocean floor beneath the triangle region. Methane hydrates are compounds in which methane gas is trapped within ice-like structures. When these deposits destabilize and release, triggered by geological activity or temperature changes, enormous volumes of gas can erupt through the water column.
Dr. Ramirez, a large methane eruption beneath a vessel could theoretically dramatically reduce the density of the surrounding water. enough to sink a ship very rapidly, without the usual warning signs, and without generating significant surface debris. It's not proven in the triangle specifically, but it's a genuine physical mechanism. The Barents Sea off Norway has produced visible craters from exactly this process.
Similarly, some researchers have proposed that methane-rich air could affect aircraft engines or flight instrumentation. The evidence is inconclusive, but the mechanism is real. And in a region where the ocean floor is poorly mapped and geologically active, it cannot be dismissed. In 2016, satellite imagery revealed something unusual over the Bermuda Triangle and over the North Sea of Britain's coast. Hexagonal cloud formations with remarkably straight edges up to 55 miles across. Meteorologists from Colorado State University analyzed these formations and proposed they could generate air bombs, sudden blasts of wind descending from clouds at up to 170 miles per hour. A microburst of that magnitude would be catastrophic for any vessel or aircraft encountering it without warning.
Dr. Patel, the hexagonal cloud finding is genuinely interesting, and the physics is sound. These formations can produce extreme downbursts. Whether they're uniquely prevalent in the Triangle region, or whether they account for specific historical incidents, requires much more research. But it's exactly the kind of thing that shows there may be real atmospheric peculiarities worth studying seriously.
We have spoken about geography, about physics, about meteorology. But the Bermuda Triangle is also a story about human beings, about how we perceive risk, how we construct narrative, and how the need for meaning can reshape the boundary between fact and fiction. Human beings are the most powerful pattern recognition machines ever produced by evolution. This capacity is why we survived finding patterns in rustling grass meant detecting predators before they struck. But this same capacity in a modern cognitive environment leads us to find patterns that aren't there.
Dr. Nadia Chen, cognitive psychologist. Psychologists call it apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. When a series of tragedies occur in a geographic region over time, the human mind almost automatically generates a narrative of cause. The triangle is a textbook case. The incidents span decades, involve entirely different vessel types, and have different probable explanations. But proximity on a map creates the illusion of connection.
This is not a criticism of the people who believe in the triangle's mystery. It's a recognition of a universal human trait. We are all vulnerable to it. The question is what we do when the data confronts our patterns. The Bermuda Triangle became a cultural phenomenon in the 1970s, largely driven by a single book, Charles Berlitz's The Bermuda Triangle, published in 1974. It sold millions of copies, was translated into dozens of languages, and created an entire genre of paranormal geography. Berlitz's book was compelling, atmospheric, and deeply problematic in its sourcing, which is precisely the combination that achieves mass readership. It presented disputed incidents as established fact. It omitted contradicting evidence. It speculated freely while implying certainty.
Dr. Chen, what Berlitz created was not just a book. It was a cognitive frame. Once people had that frame, every new incident in the region got filtered through it. Confirmation bias took over. Stories that fit the triangle narrative spread. Stories that contradicted it, or simply remained inconclusive, were ignored.
This is the mechanism by which myths become self-reinforcing, and the Bermuda Triangle is one of the most studied examples of exactly this process. But here is where intellectual analysis must pause and acknowledge something that data cannot fully contain. Behind every incident are human beings. Lieutenant Robert Gerber, of Flight 19 to 21 years old, married. His wife waited. The USS Cyclops carried 309 men, engineers, cooks, officers, young sailors barely out of their teens. When we debate the statistics of the Bermuda Triangle, we are discussing the disappearance of human lives. Lives that left families in permanent, unresolved grief. No body to bury, no explanation to accept, no closure because the ocean simply took everything. That grief is real, and perhaps part of the enduring power of the Bermuda Triangle narrative is this: the mystery becomes a container for that grief. A way of saying what happened here was not random. It was not ordinary. These lives were taken by something extraordinary.
Dr. Chen, from a psychological standpoint, mystery is sometimes more bearable than accident. If something inexplicable took your loved one, there's at least a narrative. Pure random tragedy, that's almost impossible to metabolize.
We are now in the place where this documentary was always headed. Not toward easy resolution, but toward the harder, more interesting territory that lies beyond both uncritical belief and reflexive debunking. More than 80% of the world's oceans remain unmapped at high resolution. We have more detailed topographical maps of the surface of Mars than we have of the bottom of the Atlantic. In the Bermuda Triangle's deep waters, the Puerto Rico Trench remains incompletely surveyed. The geological history of methane deposits on the ocean floor in this region is not fully characterized. The frequency and intensity of deep water current anomalies is still being studied.
Dr. Ramirez, the honest answer to "is the Bermuda Triangle dangerous?" is not "no, it's all myth." The honest answer is we have insufficient data about the deep ocean to be certain either way about specific mechanisms. What we've debunked is the paranormal explanation. What we haven't fully replaced it with is a complete evidence-based account of every incident.
This is the authentic frontier of the mystery. Not aliens, not time portals, but the genuine limits of human knowledge about a mostly unexplored planetary environment. The Bermuda Triangle, studied seriously, becomes a remarkably useful lens for examining how human beings construct and maintain false beliefs, and how genuinely difficult it is to dislodge them. The Triangle narrative had everything a durable myth requires: dramatic events, incomplete information, emotional resonance, and a credible-sounding geographic frame. It spread through authoritative-seeming books, into popular culture, into school conversations. Within a decade, it was treated as established fact by millions of people. And when Couché's rigorous debunking appeared, it changed relatively little in public perception. The myth was already embedded. The facts were less emotionally compelling than the story.
Dr. Chen, the triangle is a perfect case study in why scientific literacy matters. Not because believing in the triangle is dangerous, it isn't particularly, but because the same cognitive mechanisms that make the triangle myth so persistent are the ones that sustain genuinely harmful misinformation. Learning to recognize them in a low-stakes context is real preparation for higher-stakes situations.
There is a version of wonder that demands miracles, that can only feel awe when confronted with the impossible. And then there is a version of wonder that finds the real world with its complexity, its genuine mysteries, its limitations of knowledge, more astonishing than any fiction. The Bermuda Triangle, honestly examined, is extraordinary, not because it's supernatural, but because the forces that shaped it, the deep ocean we barely understand, the atmospheric physics that can build a lethal storm in minutes, the psychological architecture that turns tragedy into myth, these are genuinely breathtaking. The ocean does not need our legends. It has its own. We began in darkness. We end in something like light. Not the light of definitive answers, but the cleaner, quieter light of honest inquiry. What do we know about the Bermuda Triangle? We know that real people were genuinely lost in this region, and that their loss was real and terrible, and deserves to be honored with honest investigation rather than sensational mythology. We know that the statistical case for the triangle as uniquely dangerous is not supported by actuarial data. We know that many of the most famous incidents have mundane, if still incomplete explanations rooted in navigational error, severe weather, and the ocean's extraordinary ability to erase evidence. We know that the myth was substantially constructed and amplified by popular culture, and that understanding this mechanism is itself genuinely important. And we know, with intellectual honesty, that the deep ocean beneath the triangle remains incompletely understood. That specific geological and atmospheric mechanisms may exist in this region that we haven't fully characterized. That the last word has not been written. The Bermuda Triangle, in the end, is a mirror. It reflects what we bring to it. Bring credulity, and it offers conspiracy. Bring cynicism, and it collapses to simple statistics. But bring genuine curiosity, the kind that is willing to sit with uncertainty, to weigh evidence carefully, to acknowledge the limits of both belief and knowledge, and it becomes something rare, a mystery that is still, in its own quiet way, unsolved. This is FocusMint. We believe that the most important thing a documentary can do is not give you answers, but give you better tools for asking questions. Stay curious, stay rigorous, and remember, the ocean is still out there, and it keeps its secrets very, very well.